So when we were handing out NUCS last week, or this last weekend, the weekend before, three common questions that seemed to be coming up was, when do I know to start feeding my bees or stop feeding my bees? Second question, should I be putting pollen sub on them? And then the third question, when will I know it's time to add another box or give our bees more room? And so I just actually happened to be out in the bee yard with my wife Amanda and filmed a little video answering those questions. Yo, hope that struck you as like just super cool. No, actually we were just handing out NUCS today, and there's a few common questions that people were asking. Also Chris had been mentioning that there's a few common questions when people have just bought their NUCS and are looking at installing them. And one of the first ones of those being, should I feed my bees? It's a really good idea, especially with the way the weather's been this year. It's just been really unpredictable and everything. But there's not been a lot of good foraging weather. And so, yes, feed them. Best thing feed them with, if you just got a couple of hives or whatever, is sugar water. Make sure you use white sugar. White sugar, 2 parts white sugar, 1 part water. You can put a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar per gallon if you want. That's actually really helps with gut health. How long to feed? When your hive is still a single in a single box, you want them to have at all times at least a couple of frames of feed. And I'll find a picture to throw up on there just so you know what I'm talking about. So you want to make sure they have at least a couple of frames of feed this time of the year. If they're a double, like these colonies are, you want to see between the both of them, you want to see at least 4 or 5 frames, if not 6 frames of feed. A follow-up question people have been asking, do we give pollen sub this time of the year? You can, we're not, just simply because there is a lot of pollen sources. One of the main reasons that we use pollen sub early in the year is to help stimulate brood rearing. But the other thing that helps as well is the spring equinox, or rather the winter equinox. As soon as the daylight starts getting longer again, the bees start getting more and more stimulated for brood rearing. So we already have our days longer this time of the year. The bees are already inclined towards brood rearing, so you don't have to necessarily worry about stimulating them with pollen sub. The biggest thing, make sure that they have syrup just so they don't starve on you. But there's, if we get some good foraging days, there shouldn't be any problem at all with them getting a good amount of pollen. But if you want to put sub on it, go for it. Last question we'll just deal with in this video. People ask, how will I know when it's time to add another box? Great question, supering, let's see here. A general rule of what I tell people is that when you open the lid, if the top of the frames is 3/4 covered with bees, so 8 of your frames out of the 10, roughly, the tops are covered with bees, go ahead and add a second box. The reason, you're really not going to hurt your bees by putting supers on early this time of the year, like we're almost at the beginning of May. The reason you want to avoid giving them too much space earlier in the year is just it's more ambient room for them, that they can lose heat from their cluster. And when a colony is young, it's obviously a smaller cluster. They have to work harder to maintain their operating temperature, if you will. But getting to this time of year, you don't have to be as cautious about that. But general rule, 3/4 of the top of the frames covered with bees, add a super. Let's see here, this one. So if you look here, the bees are just about here. So I mean maybe half of the top of the frames are covered. So that one's good. Let's see. Same thing, half. Maybe, yeah, same thing, about half. So I mean, none of these would I throw boxes on. Let's see here if we can find one that's a...
This
is getting closer. Yeah, this is almost the 3/4. There's really only 1.5 frames. We don't have a smoker out here, so we won't leave. It's only like 1.5 frames that aren't covered with bees. So let's see if we can't find one here that's... These were all bees that we split about 2-3 weeks ago, so may not really... Anyways, you kind of get the idea of what you're looking for.
There we go.
That one definitely needs an extra box on it. As you can see, like I said, I'm going to keep them closed here because otherwise I'll have bees bouncing off my face and everything else. But yeah, once 3/4 of the top is covered, throw another box on there. So if you have any other common questions that come to mind, just throw them down in the comments and we'll try and address a few of them at a time. Thank you all so much for your continued business. It's been an awesome year. And I actually get this beautiful camera lady behind the scenes, which she claims to be married to me, so that's a good thing too. Good start, I guess. Better than her denying it. Anyways, thanks.